Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by my channel today. Welcome back if you've been here before. This is my end of month recap video for September 2022. I cannot believe that it is October already. I don't know where September went. In this video, as usual, I'll share a little bit of general life updates. Then I'll get into the decks I've received, and I have a few that I'm really excited about. The books I've read, some chat about animal learning and book plans for next month and all that good stuff. In terms of general life updates, I guess I'll start with kind of the negative thing first. It's been a bit of a rough month. Medically speaking, I have found out that I need a root canal that may or may not save my tooth. So I've been in a fair amount of discomfort. There was one day that was really, really bad, like go home from work bad. It's improved a bit now, and I feel like I can eat and I can chat and film YouTube videos and things like this, but I am uncomfortable and I'm pretty dental phobic. I've got some childhood trauma from the dentist, so going to a specialist is nerve-wracking, and having a new kind of procedure that I've never had before is feeling pretty scary, but I feel like I've received a good referral from my dentist, and I'm hoping that it can be done fairly quickly. I'm crossing my fingers that my tooth can be saved and doesn't have to come out, but if it has to come out, it happens. There's not really much to be done about that. I've been struggling with it, definitely, but I'm looking forward to getting it over with. That was the big negative thing. Other than that, September's just been really busy. The semester started. I did not plan on teaching this semester. I took a full-time permanent job outside of academia in the nonprofit sector, but I, at the last minute, agreed to teach this third-year sociology course, which I've taught before. And so I've started that. I've given, I think, 4 classes so far, and I'm bracing myself for the grading to come in. I do have some help with that, which is great, but I'm definitely feeling some regret over the fact that I took the contract. It's a really long day. I teach on Thursdays, so my Thursday is 8:30 to 4:30 at my day job, and then 7 to 10 at night teaching the course. I also have a third job that's 5 hours a week, pretty flexibly, and my union is going into bargaining, and I'll be participating in that, so that's another time commitment. And I'm joining a board of directors for another nonprofit social justice organization in the community. So I feel like I've just piled a lot of things on, and that is challenging. I took the course because I've been wanting to save money for a large purchase, because my car is really on, the last stretch of its life. It's quite old, and so that's the only reason that I took the class, and the fact that it was at night so it didn't conflict with my day job. But I think that actually the work is too much. So I'm glad that the course is only a semester long. This will be over at the end of 2022. I will not do that again. So that is something that I've learned. In terms of Druidry updates, I am in a weird limbo of having become an apprentice in the AODA, finishing my candidate time and becoming an apprentice, but I haven't done the initiation yet for apprentice because I'm making, rather than purchasing or acquiring otherwise, some tools for that particular ritual, and it's going slowly. I decided to macrame for the first time, and I'm really enjoying it, but my goodness, macrameing a belt that goes around me 3 times and then some is going to take a while. So I'm taking my time with that, though, and putting lots of good intention into it. It feels like not magic, and I love that. And so I'm enjoying it, but it's just, I feel like a weird, liminal, not yet quite there, because the ritual hasn't happened, even though I'm there in terms of membership, strictly speaking. So that's an interesting thing, and I'm just enjoying the process. As always, I love being a druid, so I'm just enjoying that process. The other thing I've been really enjoying in the last little while is day planner planning. I know that I am not alone in that September and into October becomes day planner season, thinking about planner systems for 2023. So I've slowly been having my items arrive of how I'm going to be planning in 2023. I will make a video about that in more detail. I do like nerding out about stationery as much as tarot or books. But I've decided this year to shift into a traveler's notebook system for my tracking for astrology and weather, which is part of my Druidry practice, as well as my personal day planner, as well as my wallet, to just really cut down on the number of things I'm carrying. So I got this vegan traveler's notebook cover. So it does have the elastic that a traveler's notebook usually has, but it also has the 2 pen loops to close it as well. And I got the traveler's notebook wallet insert. So the cover has some places to put cards, and then also there's this wallet insert that can have some credit cards or things there, and then this one is where money and change would live. So I'm excited about that. My day planner, my personal day planner, is going to be this Kinbor planner, which I accidentally bought undated. It said 2023 weekly, and I bought it and it was undated. So I had to go through and write all of the months and days in, but I like the layout a lot, and so this will just tuck into the back pocket of my traveler's notebook really nicely. So that will be my personal thing that I carry around, and that will be it. I can get rid of my wallet, and not be carrying everything separately. I also picked up a Jibun Techo Biz, which is a weekly vertical layout, as my work planner. In 2022, I had decided to do the one planner for everything, and that has been good, but it is now complicated by the fact that I've shifted careers. My job involves a very high degree of confidentiality. There's very, very little that I can really put in a personal planner that I'm carrying around all the time that pertains to my work. I can put in that I'm in the office 8:30 to 4:30, or I'm work from home 8:30 to 4:30, but anything specific can't really be in a day planner that I'm carrying around all the time. So I need to have an office planner. So that's why I've split into 2. I will share more about my layouts once I get all sorted out. Suffice to say that I have been looking at treats like this cat traveler's notebook fountain pen washi tape. I could not resist. I'm not a huge washi tape person, but if you put all of my favorite things on one, then I'll have to get it. If there was just a tarot card on it, then that would be perfect. So I've been enjoying that. That's been my September. Decks that I've received this month. Now, the first 2 I'm just going to show and I'm going to say nothing about, because we will be filming a in-depth review. I received graciously from the creator the Star Trek Tarot original series and the Star Trek the animated series, what they're calling a mini deck. Really, it's a majors only deck. It's tarot sized, but it is majors only. For folks who don't know, the original Star Trek had 78 episodes, and the animated series had 22. So these are an episode per card decks. I'm really excited about them, and Chris and I will be reviewing them together, my partner and I. And I heard you that I was out of uniform last time. That issue will be rectified this time. I will be in correct attire associated with the correct series. So I'm looking forward to that. We haven't actually unboxed the decks. We want to keep our first impressions to share with you in an unboxing, but I did open the box to be able to read the book, which is called Card Trek from the Triumphi to the 23rd Century, because I feel like an unboxing of a book is not that useful, right? So we'll share our impressions of the cards as we look through them for the first time, but I will also be speaking to the details of this book. I'll say right now that this is really excellent. They're going to be selling the deck with or without the book, so there's a couple of different price point options there, But if this is something that interests you, then I would say to definitely get this book. I'll get into more detail of that in Chris and I's review. Very excited. I also received another deck, which I missed on Kickstarter, messaged the creator, and the creator said, oh, it's fine. I haven't ordered them yet. If you feel okay with PayPaling, not through Kickstarter, then, you can have it for the Kickstarter price. And I feel like this month it looks like I really like pop culture or something, which is very unlike me when it comes to tarot. But when I saw these, and someone in a Discord group that I'm in linked them, I could not resist. I've never messaged a creator about a Kickstarter that I've missed before, but our cards mean death. Based on, of course, our flag means death. In a book box, I could not. So maybe I could do a full walkthrough of this deck if folks are interested. I still have it in order because I've been looking through things. It has a little guidebook, and the guidebook has some different quotes in for each card that come from, of course, the television show Our Flag Means Death, which I loved. The creator of this deck is Sarah Walsh, who's an artist from Portland, Oregon. And I'm really excited. It's a pip deck. I'll just show you a very few of the cards. It features characters, of course, from the show. The back of the cards feature all of the flags. And if you've seen the show, you know about the creation of the different flags. That's the back. And different pirate characters feature on the cards. And I think that the choices are quite good. Izzy for the Emperor. And so I've just been enjoying this. I think I'm going to watch the whole series again. The Lovers is, of course, Steed and Blackbeard. Who else could it be? And so, I had to. I mean, I just liked the show so much that I couldn't not. I couldn't not. So I will just show the minors are pips. It's spyglasses for wands. And they go into kind of different formations as you go through. The court cards are illustrated with characters. In them. We have these kind of goblets, I guess, for cups. And swords are swords. Makes sense for pirate deck. And the pentacles are compasses, which makes sense too. So this is, I don't want to say that it's a novelty, like I won't use it, but I love Our Flag Means Death so much that I couldn't say no. So maybe I'll do a video of this deck. You can tell me if you're interested in it. I have no idea if it's going to be for sale past the Kickstarter. I feel very lucky that the creator so graciously, agreed and just said, you can send me some money for it and I'm happy to send you one. And that was a very smooth process, no issues at all. It is printed on Make playing cards. So I knew what to expect in terms of cardstock and things like that. And it arrived quickly and I was very happy. Now, the last one that I received this month is a Kickstarter that I've been waiting a year for, that I've been waiting patiently, of course, to receive, and I'm very happy to finally have. It's a deck that I adore. I ended up being backer number 1 on the original Kickstarter for this deck. I was actually number 2, but somebody canceled their pledge. Don't know what that fool was thinking. But that is the Gentle Tarot, and I got the mini in a tin. This is a bit of a weird tin. It's rounded and it has a slide. I'm sure that there are lots of videos of this deck already including this version. I know that, I'm far from the first to receive this because I ordered some goodies, and I know that I think the deck only and book only pledges shipped first. I'm also not in the United States, so mine took a while. That's okay. But I really liked the tin, and this is a deck that I, have really enjoyed having the full-size version of, and so when I knew that there was a mini, I backed it, and I'm happy that I did. I also backed for the full-size guidebook, which is beautiful. It's very nicely bound. There's metallic in it. And so I haven't gotten much of a chance to read this yet. This just came. I have checked out the new cardstock. I like that. And the guidebook has beautiful, full color card images in it. It's mostly focused on card descriptions. There is a little bit of an introduction to the deck, introduction to the guidebook, their thank yous, Tarot 101, and then there's, of course, a creator bio in there at the end, and there's a little bit in terms of spreads, not too much, a couple of 3-card and a Circle of Self-Care spread by Meg Watson of Tarot Nerds, and then there's some opening and closing intentions included. Most of it is card meanings that are much longer than what came in the small guidebook initially. So this is all one card, the page, and then two subsequent pages after that. So it's a lot. And I'm really excited to have this. And congratulations, of course, to Mari, who's gotten to put this out in the world now after delays. Everything's been delayed, supply chains and things. I'm really glad to finally have it. Very exciting. Now, books I've read, finished this month. I have nothing to physically show you because I read absolutely everything on ebook. But I read 2 books by the same author. I read The Kingdom of Copper and The Empire of Gold, both by S.A. Chakraborty. I had read the first book in this trilogy, the Daevabad trilogy, City of Brass, last month, and I really, really liked it. It's a sweeping, epic fantasy with a fantastic female protagonist, and I just so enjoyed it that I wanted to read the others right away. And lately I've been reading quite a few trilogies and series, but I've been reading more like new releases. So I haven't gotten the chance to be reading a series kind of all back to back like that in quite a long time. And so I really enjoyed that. The books are long. I think the last one, The Empire of Gold, maybe hit 700 pages. They're quite long. So that took up a lot of my month. But I did see that there was a tag of series September going around. So I figured, I'll finish this series, and it was fantastic. Weirdly, I think The Kingdom of Copper, which was book 2, might have been my favorite of the 3. But I thought that it was a really good trilogy for folks who are into fantasy. I know that the author, S.A. Chakraborty, also has a collection of short stories that are kind of set in the world of the Daevabad trilogy, not necessarily in this storyline of the trilogy, but are kind of adjacent to it. And so I'm not going to read that right this second because I just read a lot set in that world, but I absolutely plan to pick up that book as well because I've really, really enjoyed it. And I know that S.A. Chakraborty has a new book coming out, or recently out. I want to say coming out. This was the first of her that I'd read. I really, really liked it. Definitely recommend. I think I gave the 3 books like 5-star, 5-star, 4-star, and the 4-star I was being, perhaps a little unreasonable. I might have given them all 5. I really liked this trilogy a lot. I also read The Mimicking of Known Successes by Amalka Older. This is a short book, maybe novella length, maybe very short novel, not sure. And The Mimicking of Known Successes was good. I think it's described in its blurb as a kind of cozy mystery. It definitely has a Holmes and Watson kind of vibe to it, with a investigator and an academic, who are both women, who join up, and they have a history together, but who join up in the context of investigating a missing man. And the setting is a kind of post-apocalyptic one where humans have destroyed the earth and have left the earth and then have gone into a new planet, which is quite hostile in terms of its environment, and are living basically on a series of kind of constructed platforms, not quite space stations because they are right up against the kind of the surface of the planet, but this kind of system of platforms with different kind of trains that run between them on this quite hostile to live on planet. So they all wear Atmos scarves that produce breathable atmosphere while they're out walking around and things like this. The world building in this book was fantastic. It could have been longer in terms of the content. I would totally read something else set in this context or maybe following these characters. It was a perhaps slightly more lighthearted than I usually read, so it was a nice kind of breather in some ways. Nice to read something short after reading a really long trilogy. And I hadn't read anything by Malka Older before. I did quite like this. I would happily read more. The Mimicking of Known Successes was that book. I don't know that it's out yet. This was an advanced copy. Thank you, publisher. It's either coming out very, very soon or has come out very, very recently. But I would say to keep an eye out for it. It was a good read. Then I read Skene's Leap by Jo Clayton. And Skene's Leap was actually a recommendation from a viewer in the comments of my video. And I went to look it up. And Skene's Leap is the first in, I want to say, a trilogy by Jo Clayton. And this is from the mid to late 1980s. One of the books in the trilogy was published in the year that I was born. And I had never heard of these. And I'm always open to book suggestions, and folks have a good sense of kind of what I like. And, you know, I was thinking about trying a new series since it was Series September. And so this suggestion of Skene's Leap just kind of, you know, I appreciate very much. Thank you, because it reached me at exactly the right time. And I just went to look at it and I thought, yep, like I will read this. And I got the ebook and I read that one, and I just finished it really, really recently. And this is an interesting one. I like finding, you know, particularly women, you know, who write sci-fi or fantasy, and particularly who have done so, you know, perhaps a couple decades ago that I didn't know about. So I was really happy about that. It's described as sci-fi. In some ways it reads like fantasy, because the main character, Skene, who is described in the blurb as a kind of Tomb Raider type figure, she has gone through this kind of portal to another world, and the whole book takes place on this other world. And so in a sense it reads like fantasy because they're not flying around in spaceships, you know, in the book. So it doesn't, even though she had a ship, it doesn't read like science fiction in that sense. And I really liked the world building in this book. I thought that the author did a really good job of kind of populating a world of all different kinds of species, some more humanoid and some very much not so. Some were shapeshifters as well. And throughout the course of the book, Skene is kind of going on this quest of sorts. I don't want to talk about it in a way that gives a ton away, but is trying to figure out how to get back through the portal again. And so it's kind of going on this adventure in this world to try to get to a point where that's going to be possible. And over the course of this journey, kind of accumulates a strange and thrown together mishmash of others that go on this journey as well. And so the little traveling group keeps growing over time. And I really liked the dynamic of the group, and I really liked in particular Skene, and there's another female character, Timka, and their relationship over the course of the book I really enjoyed, their friendship. There's a lot of women in this book who are playing main roles, which I also really, really liked. I will read, I think it's a trilogy and not a duology. I think it's a trilogy. I will read the second one for sure. The only thing I will mention about this book, in terms of like a critique, I guess, or a concern, that I will share in case you're also interested in reading Skeen's Leap, is that there is some content, and it's very few and far between. It's not a main part of the book at all. There are a few mentions in the book of the main character's history of having experienced sexual abuse, and as a young person, and like intrusive traumatic memories do, they're really out of nowhere in the book. It did catch me a little bit off guard, and in one or two instances, and we're talking like one or two sentences out of a very long novel, I did not actually think that this subject matter was handled particularly well, but overall I really liked the book. Definitely going to read the series. I'm really glad. Thank you again so much for recommending it, Frances, for recommending it. I am so glad that you did. I am going to check it out. I love finding a new series that I've never heard of, and I keep an eye on books that are coming out and books that are being published, and particularly from kind of presses that I like or that do a lot of sci-fi fantasy. But it's hard to kind of come across older books, particularly those that maybe aren't considered classics, quote unquote, for whatever reason, So I really am glad that I found that. I'm really glad that you mentioned it. Thank you so much. The last book that I read that I want to mention, relevant to this channel, I got to read the guidebook for a forthcoming Oracle deck, a mass market Oracle deck. I've never read an Oracle deck guidebook before where I didn't have the deck, but it was available as an advanced reader copy on NetGalley, and I threw my name in for it, and I was offered a copy, and so I read it. And that's for the Kantagi Oracle coming out. The book is by Ray Diamond, who I'm unfamiliar with until this point, but the artwork is by Laura Zespan, and Laura Zespan will be familiar to some folks as the painter who created the Luminous Void tarot, which is a really neat kind of oval-shaped tarot deck that is watercolor painted. It's a beautiful deck. The watercolor is like a little bit weird in the best possible way. It's a deck that I wasn't sure if was for me, but when I saw it in person at a shop, which was at Hermit's Lamp in Toronto, I fell madly in love with it and got it, and I adore it. And so Laura Zespan's art I really like. And so I was keen to see what this deck was about based on that. Now, of course, reading an advanced reader copy, all I'm getting is a electronic document of the guidebook. So I don't have the physical deck to show. I don't know what the physical deck is really like. I'm looking forward to seeing if anybody gets this deck, what it is like, because I'm on the fence about whether or not I'm going to get this deck, because I really like Laura Zespan's art. And I really like the structure of this deck. So the Kantagi Oracle is based around kind of a waxing and waning. So the deck is almost split in two. It doesn't look like that visually, but there's a sense of a waxing and a waning in the deck. It has a kind of cyclical and nature's cycles and ecological theme, which I appreciate. And this is a deck that has some of the most interesting card titles for an Oracle deck that I've ever seen. I find them very intriguing, and I really like the structure of the deck and the names in the deck, and I can imagine really enjoying reading this now. But, there's a but. The guidebook, I had some issues. I am all for an ecologically themed deck. As folks know, I'm a druid. Druidry is a earth-centered and for me, inherently environmentalist type of spiritual practice. I like when deck creators focus on ecological or environmental issues in a deck. It's something that I look for, you know, and so I was really interested in that. Now, something that irritates me though, and I could be wrong, it's hard to tell from just a guidebook as an ebook. I can't find anything about the production of this deck that has any ecological considerations built into it. Right? Is it on recycled or eco-friendly, sustainable paper, for example? Is the packaging plastic free? I don't know, right? But if the answer is no, and the guidebook is explicitly encouraging people to be more mindful of their carbon footprint and to be more thoughtful about their environmental impacts, then that feels very weird to me. Like weird and kind of problematic more than a little bit. I also found that the guidebook's suggestions for environmental shifts that you might make in your life, and part of what we do in AODA Druidry is make environmentally conscious lifestyle changes as part of the spiritual practice. And I feel like the suggestions, some of them are like 30 years behind. The suggestions that were being made were things like, you know, eating a bit less red meat and using less aerosols and things like this. And I'm like, we're just so far past this. And so I thought that it could have been stronger in that way. But I really like the looks of the deck. I really like the artwork. I really like the structure. It feels really thought out. And the meanings of the cards were really nicely written. So I liked that part of the guidebook. So that's my thoughts on that. I don't know if I'll be getting this deck or not. I'm going to do some more looking into it and make a decision later. In terms of reading plans for October, spooky season, I'm going to be probably reading some horror. I will think about maybe reading some mystery books. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to pick any TBR cards or commit to any readathons. I have accumulated a bit of a stack of ebooks that I would like to get through. I also really want to start reading the apprentice curriculum for my Druidry, so I'm just going to stick with that as my plans for October. Now, what's left for the recap is Animal of the Month. And for my Animal of the Month, I worked with Bat. I didn't choose this card. This was chosen by T of Cosmic Creeper, whose Patreon I'm a part of, and there's an animal per month chosen for that. And in that context, we explored Bat in terms of liminality and thresholds and threshold spaces and dawn and dusk. And we had some reflection questions. We had some nice writing to read. We had a spread to try. And so that was all really great. And I wanted to share some other thoughts that I had about that. So this card is from 100 Ink Animals. This is the guidebook for that by Jessica Gowling. And this guidebook focuses on relating the bat to intuition, which maybe you can see is the keyword there. And the focus is on echolocation, which the book very briefly explains, and then points out that with echolocation, bat understands surroundings immediately. This notion of grabbing information out of thin air lends itself to intuition. And then it talks about kind of listening to your inner voice and things like this. And I can see it. I can see associating bat with intuition, but at the same time, I will say that, you know, this idea that echolocation is grabbing information out of thin air and is therefore intuitive feels like a really human-centric understanding of the senses, right? Like echolocation is no more grabbing information out of thin air than hearing a sound wave is. So that's weird to me. In addition to echolocation, a lot of bats are very sensitive to magnetic fields as well. So bats have a different sensory experience of the world than humans do. They perceive the world in different ways, which made me think about phenomenology. So maybe I'm thinking about bats keyword as phenomenology. And in her article, Towards a Queer Phenomenology, Sarah Ahmed describes phenomenology as making orientation central, in the argument that consciousness is always directed towards objects and is hence always worldly, situated, and embodied, right? Focused on the habitual actions that shape bodies and worlds. And the introductory paragraph of this article, I'll just read it really quickly because this is what Bat made me think of, was this queer phenomenology. Sarah Ahmed writes, "What does it mean to be oriented? How is it that we come to find our way in a world that acquires new shapes depending on which way we turn? If we know where we are when we turn this way or that, then we are oriented. We have our bearings. We know what to do to get to this place or to that. To be oriented is also to be oriented towards certain objects, those that help us find our way. These are the objects we recognize, such that when we face them, we know which way we are facing. They gather on the ground and also create a ground on which we can gather. Yet objects gather quite differently, creating different grounds. What difference does it make what we are oriented toward?" And so thinking about bat as an animal or set of animals, because there's a lot of different bats that are fundamentally oriented towards the world differently, I think is really productive in terms of thinking about these senses and other senses that bats have in a less human-centric way. And I also think that, something about thinking about perception and different ways of perceiving and perhaps trying to perceive differently can almost bring back to T's connection between bat and liminal spaces and liminality, because, when we think of liminality, to me, you think of something like the moon card, where boundaries are blurry, where things might be hard to recognize or categorize, where those boundaries tend to kind of break down, shadows that can play tricks on perception, and darkness playing tricks on perception, but not if you're a bat, right? And so that's where those musings went this month, which is a kind of circuitous way of getting back where we started, but it made me think of phenomenology. There you go. So before I leave, I will draw an animal for October. This time I'm going to go back to picking from the Druid Animal Oracle, which is by Philip and Stephanie Cargom with Will Worthington's artwork. And I'm not shuffling very many cards here because I've taken out all of the ones that I've already done for an animal of the month. And I've also taken out, there's a couple like sea serpents and dragons and things like this, and I don't really work with that in the same way. So I want to pick one that we haven't had before to have animal for October, because holy shit, it's October already. Okay. None are jumping out because it's a pretty easy to shuffle deck. So I'll just take one off the top. Ooh, salmon. Oh, this is going to be good because salmon is very important in Druidry and is associated, of course, with water and with the West. Salmon is associated with wisdom. Okay. And we can see the nuts and the sacred pool of wisdom in this card already. So I already know where this is going to go a little bit, but I'm excited to share more about Druid knowledge about salmon with you all next month. I wish you all a great day, great weekend, great October. I will see you all again soon. I've got some tags lined up to film. And of course, Chris and I will be making another appearance together to talk about Star Trek Tarot. Thanks for watching. Wish you all well. See you soon.